Imagine having the ability to stay calm, confident, and in control no matter what the situation. Imagine mastering your emotions so well that people admire your grace, respect your boundaries, and trust your decisions. Here's the thing, this isn't just a personality trait, it's a skill, and it's called emotional intelligence. For everyone who doesn't know me yet, hi, I'm Ruby, and I help women reclaim their inner radiance and live the life they dream of. Today, we're diving into the art and science of emotional intelligence, the hidden superpower that can transform your relationships, advance your career, and bring you an unshakable sense of fulfillment. By the end of this video, you'll have 5 powerful tools to begin building emotional intelligence in your daily life. This is more than just self-improvement. It's about stepping into a movement, a quiet revolution where women reclaim their worth, live unapologetically, and stop allowing outdated societal expectations to define their value. My own journey has taught me the importance of inner strength in a world that constantly tries to box you in. I've had to build resilience by moving 11 times across 9 states, working in dozens of different roles, and carving my path when the odds weren't in my favor. But here's a question for you. Are you going to let a bad conversation with your partner, best friend, a rude coworker, or one moment of frustration decide your mood for the rest of the day? Or will you take control, rise above, and live intentionally? If you're ready to transform your life and master emotional intelligence, let's dive in. Before I get started, let me share a story about how I've used emotional intelligence to navigate some of the most challenging moments in my life. A few years ago, I found myself working multiple jobs, juggling waitressing, marketing gigs, and social media management, doing everything I could to stay afloat. On top of that, I was buried in thousands of dollars of medical debt, which felt like a mountain I could never climb. I remember one night in particular, when I was sitting on the floor of my tiny apartment. I felt completely defeated, and I kept asking myself, how did I even end up here? And how will I ever get out of this? And will I? That overwhelming sense of hopelessness was paralyzing. But here's what I've learned about emotional intelligence. It's not just about managing your feelings in that moment. It's about using those emotions as a guide to where you want to go. That night, I realized I had 2 choices. I could either stay in the cycle of overwhelm and let my circumstances define me, or I could take a step back, face my emotions head on, which is really hard to do, and use them as fuel for change. And that's when I started journaling and reflecting on what was triggering my feelings of defeat. I realized my fear of failing and my feelings of unworthiness were holding me back. I also recognized a small glimmer of hope that if I could manage my emotions and focus on solutions, I could slowly begin to rebuild. And that's exactly what I did. I started visualizing the life I wanted, down to the smallest of details. I made a plan to chip away at my debt, one step at a time. And as I practiced gratitude and built emotional resilience, I began to notice opportunities flow around me, ones I never would have seen before. Fast forward to today, and I've built my creative agency from the ground up. I've collaborated with luxury brands like the Four Seasons and the Ritz Carlton, and I've created a life that feels abundant and aligned with my values. And it feels so good to finally come to this point, because at one point in my life, I didn't ever think that I would ever be here. But now I'm so thankful to my past self for putting in the work and putting in that emotional resilience, emotional intelligence, and using all my time to manifest and help myself align with what my future self wanted. But none of this would have been possible without learning how to master my emotions and channel them into intentional actions. So if you're feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or like your emotions are working against you, I want you to know that you have the power to turn it all around. Emotional intelligence isn't just a skill. It's a way to reclaim control of your life and step into your potential. And today, I'm sharing the tools that help me make that transformation so that you can take those first steps towards the life that you deserve. Tip number 1, become aware of your emotional triggers. Let's start with a foundational piece of emotional intelligence: self-awareness. High-value women recognize their emotions without letting them take control. And one of the best ways to build this self-awareness is by understanding your emotional triggers. They're pathways to who you want to become. Think of it like this. Your triggers are automatic responses that your mind has learned over time, often due to past experiences or core beliefs. For example, maybe someone dismissing your ideas makes you feel unvalued or angry. Or perhaps you find yourself holding back because of an old belief that you're too much or not enough. By recognizing these triggers, you can stop reacting impulsively and start responding with intention. Let me share something I've learned through my own journey. Emotional triggers are actually incredible tools for self-growth. They're like signposts pointing to the areas where we need to heal. For instance, I used to feel a tint of jealousy when I saw someone else achieving something I deeply wanted. But instead of shaming myself for feeling jealous, I started journaling to understand why that was. I realized it wasn't about the other person at all, actually. It was all about me. And that jealousy was telling me something. It was saying, hey, you want this too. You want to achieve this. And that's the beauty of triggers. They're not your enemy. They're your best friend when it comes to growth. Have you ever had a work meeting where one offhand comment from a boss or a colleague left you feeling small for the rest of the day? Or perhaps a friend forgot to check in and suddenly you're doubting the entire friendship. These are all moments where your emotional triggers can hijack your peace. But becoming aware of these triggers means you can reclaim control, sidestepping the spiral of overthinking and self-doubt. Here's the truth. Every time you notice a trigger, it's an opportunity to heal and grow. So here's a little tip for you. Next time you feel an intense reaction rising, take a deep breath and ask yourself, what's really behind this feeling? Why am I feeling this? Journaling can be a powerful tool for this. So write down your emotions and explore the why behind them. For example, if someone else's success triggers you, dig deeper. Maybe it's because you want that success for yourself. And here's the best part. You can absolutely achieve it too. There's nothing stopping you, only yourself. So the more you recognize your triggers, the more power you have to handle them with grace. Try asking yourself, how would I act and behave if I chose that this was meant to happen? This question transforms how you handle your emotions, helping you to view every situation as a learning opportunity. Remember, emotional triggers are not the enemy. They're your guide to becoming the best version of yourself. Tip number 2. Develop empathy by listening with presence. One of the most transformative aspects of emotional intelligence is empathy. High-value women practice empathy by listening fully and without judgment, creating deeper connections in both personal and professional relationships. When we're truly present, we don't just hear words. We pick up on energy, tone, and even unspoken feelings. Researcher Brené Brown, whose TED Talk on vulnerability is one of the most watched in history, emphasizes the power of listening without the urge to respond. By focusing entirely on what the other person is saying, we show that we value their experience, which naturally builds trust and respect. Have you ever been in a conversation where the other person wasn't really listening, just waiting for their turn to speak? Or maybe you found yourself drifting off during a discussion, missing a chance to truly connect. This is where the tactical empathy comes into play, a strategy championed by Chris Voss, the FBI's top negotiator. Tactical empathy means stepping into the other person's shoes and acknowledging their emotions without necessarily agreeing with them. But by doing so, you make them feel heard, understood, and valued. One way to practice this is by using mirroring and labeling. Mirroring involves repeating the last few words someone said to prompt them to elaborate. For example, if they say, "I just don't feel like anyone understands me," you could respond with, "Oh, you don't feel like anyone understands you?" or doesn't understand you? This simple technique encourages them to open further. Labeling, on the other hand, is identifying and naming their emotions. You might say something like, "It seems like you're frustrated, doesn't it?" Or, "It sounds like this is something that's really important to you." Both strategies help the other person feel validated, lowering their guard and deepening your emotional connection to them. Empathy isn't just about being kind either. It's about creating safe spaces for others to share, forming relationships where people feel genuinely heard and respected. Let me share this hack with you. During your next conversation, focus on listening without interrupting or planning what you're going to say next. Reflect back on what you hear using phrases like, "It sounds like you're feeling," and then say what it is that they feel. Or it seems like this not only just builds trust, but also demonstrates your commitment to understanding the other person fully. When you approach conversations with this kind of presence and intentionality, you'll find that people naturally gravitate toward you, and your connections will become more meaningful and fulfilling. Tip number 3, respond rather than react. Responding rather than reacting is fundamental to emotional intelligence. Reactions are often quick and impulsive, while responses are thoughtful and intentional. High-value women understand the importance of creating a pause between feeling an emotion and acting on it. This space allows you to process the situation and respond in a way that aligns with your highest self. One technique I've found incredibly helpful is the 3-breath rule. Whenever I feel a strong emotion, whether it's anger, frustration, or even excitement, I pause and take 3 slow, intentional breaths. And science supports this. Studies show that specific breath patterns can help take you out of fight or flight mode, calming your nervous system and allowing you to think more clearly. Breathwork and meditation are powerful tools that can help you regulate your emotions over time, making it easier to respond rather than react in high stress situations. And this is something I've had to master through life experiences because I'm naturally a very anxious person. From growing up constantly moving to living in Los Angeles, a city where emotional triggers are seriously everywhere. Whether it's a tough comment, a stressful situation, or simply the fast pace of life, I've learned how to stay centered and confident. Have you ever received a nasty comment or a rude message and felt the urge to fire back immediately? Or found yourself in an argument with someone you care about and later regretted saying something in the heat of the moment? Practicing this pause gives you the time to act from a place of power instead of letting others dictate your reactions. Next time you're in a challenging situation, stop and pause. Take 3 deep breaths. As you breathe, ask yourself, what if everything is perfect the way it's unfolding, even if I just can't see it yet? This reframe not only shifts your perspective, but also helps you approach the situation with clarity and confidence. Responding rather than reacting reinforces your self-control and emotional resilience. It's a skill you can strengthen with practice, and over time, it becomes second nature. By mastering this, you're not just managing your emotions either. You're stepping into the role of a high-value woman who leads her life with grace and intentionality. Tip number 4, practice self-compassion. Emotional intelligence isn't just about understanding others either. It's all about how we treat ourselves. High-value women know that self-compassion is a cornerstone of emotional resilience and personal growth. Far too often, we overlook our own needs as women, becoming our own worst critics. Seriously, stop being your own worst enemy and think about your inner dialogue. How do you speak to yourself when you make a mistake or feel vulnerable? Is it harsh and judgmental, or is it loving and forgiving and supportive? For a long time, I realized I was being far too critical of myself. We are our own worst critics. I expected perfection, and whenever I fell short, I would spiral into self-doubt. And it was exhausting and unproductive. But then I made a conscious decision to change. I decided to become my own best cheerleader, because if you're not going to be your own best cheerleader, then seriously, who is going to be? So I decided to love and embrace every flaw, every imperfection that I have. And that inner work was transformational. By changing the way that I spoke to myself, I created a foundation of self-love that made me more confident, less reactive, and emotionally stronger. Now I'm able to give myself the love and support I need to feel good, even in moments of uncertainty. Psychologist Christine Neff, a leading expert on self-compassion, teaches that being kind to ourselves in times of difficulty builds resilience. When we silence that harsh inner critic and replace it with compassion, we're not only kinder to ourselves, but we also become stronger and more capable of handling life's challenges. One way that I use this is whenever I go to the gym and I just don't feel like showing up today, instead of being a harsh critic towards myself, I actually give myself sympathy and champion myself for whatever I can do that day. Whether it's just a little bit or whether it's just putting on my gym shoes and making it and showing up to the gym. And that alone makes me feel like I have a safe space within myself and I'm a cheerleader and a champion of myself. I promise you, the moment you start to change that inner dialogue with yourself, you start to build up a way better relationship with yourself. Have you ever felt like you needed to be perfect to be loved or accepted, or found yourself spiraling into self-doubt after one small mistake? Those moments are opportunities to practice self-compassion and step out of that harsh cycle into one of self-love and understanding. So here's a practical exercise to help that. Try the self-compassion break. Whenever you're feeling low or overwhelmed, place your hand on your heart, take a deep breath, close your eyes, and say to yourself, I'm doing the best I can. It's okay to not have it all figured out. I deserve love and understanding. And this simple act cultivates inner strength and resilience, reinforcing your worth from the inside out. Being able to emotionally connect and check in with yourself by checking that breathing pattern also helps a lot. Remember, you are your own best cheerleader. By practicing self-compassion, you'll build the foundation of emotional stability that not only supports you, but also inspires others to do the same. Tip number 5, embrace vulnerability to build authentic connections. Our final tip is all about embracing vulnerability. High-value women understand that being open and genuine is essential to building trust and creating meaningful relationships. Now, let's clarify something. Vulnerability isn't about exposing every emotion or spilling your deepest secrets to everybody. It's about allowing people to see your true self in an authentic way. As Brené Brown famously said, vulnerability is the birthplace of connection and the path to the feeling of being truly alive. When we allow ourselves to be open, especially in moments of discomfort, we invite deeper understanding and authentic connection. For me, vulnerability has been a game changer in forming meaningful friendships and relationships. I found that when I share what I'm genuinely going through, it creates a space for others to do the same. Some of my closest friendships have started because I was willing to let my guard down and say, this is what I'm feeling, or hey, you know what, this is what I'm struggling with and I just need some support. When you use vulnerability as your superpower, you create bonds rooted in honesty rather than pretense. It's a way of saying, this is who I am, and I invite you to show me who you are too. Think about moments when you've hidden your true feelings, fearing judgment, or hesitated to share something personal because you didn't want to seem too much. Those moments might have felt safer in the short term, but they also missed an opportunity for genuine connection. Here's a simple but powerful way to start embracing vulnerability. The next time you're in a conversation, share a small personal insight that feels true to you. It doesn't have to be deeply revealing, just a reflection of your thoughts or feelings in that current state. For example, you might say something like, I've been feeling a little unsure about this project lately, or this reminds me of a time when I struggled with something similar that I'm feeling right now. This practice encourages others to reciprocate, strengthening the bond and building trust. You'll be surprised how often people lean into that connection when you show them it's safe to be open. Remember, vulnerability isn't a weakness, it's your strength. When you embrace it, you create space for deeper connections, authentic relationships, and the kind of trust that allows you to thrive as your most radiant self. Mastering emotional intelligence isn't just about navigating emotions, it's about rising above a culture that often suppresses the true power and grace of women. With every step you take, understanding your triggers, practicing empathy, choosing thoughtful responses, showing yourself compassion, and embracing vulnerability, you're not just changing your mindset, you're becoming a part of a movement. This is a quiet yet powerful revolution, a reclamation of the worth of the modern woman, a movement that celebrates feminine qualities like intuition, grace, and resilience, which the world so often overlooks. Imagine a world where emotionally intelligent, empowered women lead with confidence and connection. A world where we honor strength, lift each other up, and embrace our authenticity unapologetically. If this message resonates with you, I invite you to join our growing community. Hit that subscribe button and share this video with the incredible women in your life who are ready to reclaim their emotional power. Together, we can redefine what it means to live with intention, purpose, and true feminine strength. Thank you for being here and taking the time to invest in yourself. You're not just learning, you're stepping into a movement that values emotional intelligence, connection, and the limitless potential of women everywhere. It's time we rise, not in competition, but in harmony with who we are and who we're meant to be. Let's continue this journey together, one step at a time. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay radiant, stay empowered, and keep stepping into your worth.